Thank you so much for joining us today. My name is Christy Amobi, and I work with SeeTreat. We're excited today that we have both a radiation oncologist and dosimetrist here to share their clinical perspectives. We'll start first with Dr. Jarad Martin, a radiation oncologist from GenesisCare, who will describe more about some of the clinical challenges he's faced in using offline adaptive radiotherapy. He will briefly walk through some of the advantages of ART.1 from the physician's perspective, and then hand it over to Stephanie Torres from SeeTreat, who will do a deeper dive into the software. With no further ado, I would like to hand it over to Dr. Martin.
Yeah, thanks for the kind introduction, Christy. And it's really exciting to have this opportunity to share this fantastic new revolutionary product that SeeTreat has put together for offline adaptive radiotherapy, ART.1. My name's Jarad Martin, as mentioned. I'm the Chief Medical Officer for ART.1, but probably more importantly, I'm also a practicing radiation oncologist, both in private and public practice in Australia, and a clinical researcher with a lot of clinical trials interests. So like all of you, I'm out there in the clinic trying to solve problems every single day. And when I was thinking about how we might be able to make a really positive impact on our specialty, I really started to talk with my peers and obviously go to the various meetings, and the big buzzword now is adaptation. And the trouble obviously with adaptation is that there's the very expensive way of doing it with an online solution and bespoke machinery that might involve a huge amount of capital investment and probably really more niche indications than being a workhorse machine. And then there's the offline approach where you try to really, in a way, retrofit all of your current fleet of equipment to make it future-proof and able to adapt for the problems being encountered in the clinic every day. And so as I went around all my colleagues, it was really quite confronting to hear that for just about every single clinician, they had their own secret sauce way of approaching offline adaptation. There were some who would just lock in a replan after a particular number of weeks. There are others that would do it almost weekly. There are others who would really just wait till something was flagged by one of the radiation therapists, and really anything in between. And then even then, when asked to replan or whether a replan was needed, there was no really objective way of really deciding whether it was going to value add to actually pull the trigger and do that. It often really did seem to be a little bit heuristic about what process was being applied. And then one thing I found really confronting was the French randomized trial for head and neck cancer, which came out around about 18 months ago. And as many of you may remember, this is a trial in head and neck cancer where every week during a 7-week course of chemoradiotherapy, an adaptive plan was performed. And it was a randomized trial, so it was just compared against standard of care. And the main endpoint was xerostomia, so reduced saliva, measured both objectively and subjectively through the patient. And perhaps disconcertingly, that trial actually showed no difference at all as far as rates of xerostomia with the adaptation. And I guess my take-home message from that was, if you're just adapting blindly, you're probably not actually going to do a lot of work for not necessarily much additional value to be gained by your patients. So you really need a smart approach, and this is where ART.1 really came along, and that a group of our clinicians, we really had a two-way conversation with all of the team at SeeTreat to really help evolve a package that was really slick, trustworthy, high-tech, future-proof, works across all platforms, and really didn't involve any extra peripherals. It was going to be completely software-based, not require any GPUs or anything fancy. It was all going to be something that could really just be plug and play and really add to the workflow. And also in a manner that wasn't going to be intrusive on clinician time. We really wanted something that you could really rattle through quite rapidly to be able to do decision making, and even more importantly, leave a paper trail on exactly where that decision might have come from, because billers are going to want to have scrutiny that adaptation is being done appropriately rather than maybe excessively, and so ART.1 is really an ideal tool to be able to do that. So what I really want to do now is share a software demonstration, and I'm just going to walk you through a couple of cases which I think are really illuminating. So the first one is a case of a prostate cancer radiotherapy, and you can see on the scorecard of the right there of all the different structures. Some of them are in red, showing there's a major violation, and some of them are in green, showing that they're fine. And you can rattle through a trend line, and this is looking at the bladder, showing it's quite erratic. Sometimes it's red, very high dose, sometimes it's green, so safe, and then there's the minor violations in the yellow. And when you see an erratic pattern on the trend line, this suggests that there's probably some random variation going on. And you can actually drill in here. This is the sagittal sections looking at the planning scan, but then you can toggle between that and the cone beam CT. And just looking at the bladder, you can appreciate that the bladder filling is quite dramatically different between those two scans. So that actually shows us that these changes aren't anything to do with complicated factors. This is just a bladder filling issue, which can be solved just with patient education and maybe just an ultrasound of the bladder prior to treatment, rather than needing to do an adaptation. Switching gears into a head and neck case, this is somebody who you can see there's a lot of orange lights, but also a red light on the spinal cord, which is obviously a concern. And so you can jump into the dose volume histogram here to get some idea about how the dosimetry here for the parotid is actually getting much worse than what was planned, and similarly for the spinal cord as well. So this is starting to feel a little bit more like a real systematic change. Once again, you can look at the trend line, and if you look at the spinal cord here, you can see it's drifted from the green zone for the Dmax through the minor violations, and is now staying again to the red zone. So a real concern. This is a proper established trend. And then looking at the parotid, similar trend as well, as it's drifting up and towards the red zone. So obviously a higher risk of xerostomia from treatment. So it's obviously handy to kind of drill in a little bit deeper to understand why this might be. So this is where we're looking now in the coronal section. And this is looking at the cone beam CT first from the most recent treatment. And then the contours from the planning CT at the beginning are sort of on the shadow on the outside. And you can get an appreciation already from this that there's a contour variation that's occurred over the course of the first few weeks of the treatment. And you can toggle between the scans to really just appreciate that this is clearly just a loss of weight that has happened for this patient, leading to the contour variation and the dosimetry changes, and probably movement within the mask as well. So really, from all of these aspects, this is clearly looking like somebody's going to need to have a pause in treatment and an adapted plan performed or a replan performed. You can go as deep as you like. This is looking at the 50 gray isodose lines on the cone beam CT, and really showing that this is now starting to touch the spinal cord, and obviously starting to increase the risk of this kind of toxicity, myelopathy moving forward. So we can go back to the scorecards. We can look at the full range of patients on the work list who are all kind of got red lights, green lights, orange lights. So it's possible to jump in really quickly, and within each case, within a minute, really be able to do a deep dive and really understand exactly why there might be any variations occurring, and really craft a solution in a very objective way. So rapid, safe, trustworthy, and really streamlined, and a really exciting product that we're able to talk about today. And with that, I might hand it over to Stephanie.
Thank you, Dr. Martin. Our next speaker is Stephanie Torres. She is a dosimetrist from SeeTreat, and she will be talking to us about the latest release of ART.1. She is a dosimetrist, and this version that you'll be seeing of ART.1 will be available at ASTRO. She is going to do a deep dive into some of the capabilities of ART.1 to show us how patients are organized by priority for review. She'll also review the configuration settings and tell us a little bit more about how to use the protocols for maximum flexibility. So now I'll go ahead and turn it over to Stephanie.
Thank you. It's great to be here today. My name is Stephanie Torres, and I'm the Global Clinical Specialist for SeeTreat. I'm also a medical dosimetrist. My clinical experience as a dosimetrist working with Dr. Bamnamami at Loyola really taught me so much about the need for adaptive radiotherapy. Although back in those days, we weren't calling it adaptive. We were just taking care of our patients. as a dosimetrist, I would have loved this software. The way it automates the whole process, it lets you know when your patients need to be adapted and lets you know when they don't need to be adapted. So no more jumping through hoops. No more of that, running around like crazy trying to get, these patients replanned for no reason, or there is a good reason, it just takes way too long to do it. So, one of the great things Dr. Martin showed a few minutes ago was that the software from the radiation oncologist point of view is super easy to work through. It's really easy to use. It allows the ROs to very quickly identify what's going on in their patients. Okay, so now I'm going to show you the ART.1 software. This is our home screen. One of the things right away that I'd like to point out is how the patients are listed in this home screen. So we do something that we like to call automatic prioritization. And that is really allowing you as the user, when you come into the software, to immediately see which patient need to be reviewed immediately. So over on the right side of the screen here, you can see our red, orange, and green indicators. These indicators show the last 3 results of the system. Now, before we get too much into that, though, let me tell you about how they got into the system in the first place. We have this really nice integrated system that allows you to input the treatment planning data automatically, assign a protocol, and then when the installation is done, it is hooked up to what we call our gateway. So up in the top corner, you see this little gateway here. Right now it's red because I'm not hooked into a Mosaic or ARIA system. But if I was, that would be green. And that would mean that every single time one of these patients had a CBCT done, it would automatically bring that into the system. And that's how we get to these results. So there is nothing that needs to be done from a user's point of view once the patient is brought in and set up. So the information that comes through, you can see the latest that things were done. You have your whole list of patients here. You can click on the patient's name or last results, and it's automatically going to pop you into what we call our case review area. And you can see this very quickly populates here. We have a lot of data in a very small space. However, what we've really tried to do is to make everything very clear very quickly for you. So again, this automatic prioritization within this scorecard. So each patient is assigned a protocol. Protocols go into those in just a minute, but protocols are based upon your departmental settings, and then they can actually be customized very easily for each patient. All of your metrics within your protocol are located here in this scorecard that you can easily and quickly see. Anything that needs attention has a major deviation will show up in red, minor deviations in orange, no deviations in green, and you can see things fast. And I think that that's the whole name of the game here, right? We want you to efficiently be able to see what's happening with your patients. One of the really cool things that I really love about this software is the trends panel. So this panel allows you to navigate to any of the metrics, and you can go ahead and you can see trends that are happening within that patient. So we can see here in this trend analysis that the parotid dose is trending up. We're at the top of our minor deviation range, getting near major deviations. And that's great, but now your physician may want to see this, what actually is happening here. So we can bring up the image pane here, and we're going to bring our dose in, turn off our dose. We can go from the CT, the synthetic CT. And as we scroll up and down here and come to this area around the parotid here, well, we can see that this patient from the treatment planning CT in the solid green line over to today's synthetic CT has definitely lost some weight there, right? And we're seeing that parotid has moved in a little bit. And now if I turn that dose on, you can see that it's starting to move into a higher dose area. So you can very quickly and easily see what's going on. One of the other nice things is that you can very quickly also navigate to other fractions just by selecting on one of the fractions here. So these will automatically bring up that daily CBCT so that you can again come through here and see what's going on with it. And you can do this for all the different views. So we can go to the CBCT, to the treatment planning CT, to the synthetic CT, and look at your doses and your contours for that particular day. So that's a really nice feature within ART.1. So we can look at, again, any of the different areas. We have parotid. Another good one to look at is spinal cord. You can see these different areas that are available to you. We can then go into the DVH. We can very quickly see the different DVHs that are available. We can see right away here on this parotid one that it definitely is getting more dose than was planned. For sure, as well as on the spinal cord, it has a little bit of wobbles above and below that line. We can see that here. So as you move through this software, you can very quickly see that we've prioritized how easy it is to see things to make a decision. Now you have the ability to make some notes in here, so you can put some notes in. That will be saved in, like, keep an eye on spinal cord. And then these will be saved with it. We'll have that ability to keep that there. And you can see it puts your name and date stamp on that. Along with this, you also have the ability to download the report as a PDF. The nice thing about having this report as a PDF is that then you can put it in the patient's record. And this will really allow you to have the justification that you need for doing a replan or not having a replan. And I like to have that immediately available. And when we look at this, you can see that it has your scorecard, has any notes. It also has all of your images for your trends and your DVH information. So this is really nice to be able to then, again, put with your patient record, use for other clinicians, and have that. So, okay, so let's go on back into here. And all right, so when we're in with that patient, go on back in here. You have also have the ability to sign off on any fractions. So this allows you as a user to be able to say, okay, I agree with this and I want to sign this off. I'm not going to do that in my demo system because I don't have any way to undo it, so to say. So just know you have that ability as well. A couple of the other things I just want to point out here is that if a patient does have a replan, we do have the ability then to bring that patient back in and have the second course of treatment. So we're starting with first course here. We'll have the ability then to have that second course and track those courses of treatment along, which again, I think is a really nice way to keep all of your data and understanding what's happening with that patient all in one place. Now, let's just say you have this protocol and a physician decides, on this parotid, this patient, I don't know, is having, some bad xerostomia effects. I really want to change the thresholds to keep a better eye on that. You can absolutely do that. If we come into here to edit, it's going to bring us into those thresholds for that patient. And we can find our parotid here. We can perhaps change this down. Let's say we want to know that when the minor deviation is happening, let's say at 28 mean dose instead. Now, it's not going to go back and recalculate your older fractions, but it will be sticky and it will be used for going forward. And this is really a way to personalize each patient's data for what they need so that you can really make a very clear objective decision on when they need to be replant. Okay, so I'm going to go on back. Okay, I think I've really shown all of the information that you really need to see in here. Let's go back to our patient list and our homepage here. So you can see right now we can do prostate, breast, and head and neck, and very clearly how this is laid out, which is really nice. But what about these settings? So I've talked about how efficient, how accelerated and automated the system is, but yes, there are settings that need to be set up. So while we're bringing in all of this data, a bit about how the back end is working is when we do have B models. So we're performing a collapse cone algorithm calculation daily on that daily synthetic CT that's created. So we need to do beam models. So we work with your team on commissioning beam models for your machine so that we have those. We need to have a structure nomenclature. So as you bring in your RTSSs from your treatment planning system, we need to know what they're called and all of the variations so that we can map those. Great thing now is that a lot of sites, almost all sites, right, are using some sort of AI for their contouring. So there is standardization that is happening now finally in nomenclature. So our structure names are being standardized. However, you still may have times when maybe you don't use a name that we have in here and need to add it in. It is very, very easy to do that. It's literally, let's just come in here and we're going to call this, something else. Say mandible bone, and that's how we're going to call it. So now that's available in there. Do you have the ability to put in any of those names? Also have a quick search tools so you can find it. So if you knew you wanted to find mandible, you can just start typing and search on that. Now these structure names are then go ahead and they're used for how we set up the protocols. So the protocols, again, are how we're setting up our metrics. We'll help you to set those up within the system and understand how they're used. We will go ahead and I'll just show you real quickly some of these thresholds. You saw them earlier. So these are the departmental type structure thresholds that are applied within each of the protocols that are set up. And you have the options to really add in anything you want. So if we go down to the bottom here, you can see this one has lips of D-mean, but if we edit these, we can edit these for anything that you need. It's really very flexible in how we're setting it up. And as radiation oncology in general learned more and more about when we want to adapt our patients, when is appropriate time and the appropriate metrics to use, and those get more well known, easily add those in and make any changes. So we're going to save this. Okay. All right, so we have our protocols, we have our beam models, we have our structure nomenclature, the algorithms within ART.1, again, do this amazing job of taking those CBCTs for these patients and going ahead and really making them, creating a synthetic CT, using a deformation vector field, bringing over those contours via deformation, and then doing a new calculation. And we have this available for head and neck. We have this available for breast and for prostate. So, yeah, we can see a lot of this information here. It's quite nice to be able, from the synthetic CT, the CBCT on the daily is really good, along with that dose. Okay. I think it's time to move over into our questions. Take any questions. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Stephanie. Thanks for showing us a little bit more about how patients are automatically prioritized for review in ART.1. The trends panel definitely makes it easy to see what's going on and easily navigate to other fractions, evaluate DVH comparisons, and make decisions. So now it is time for questions. We have had a few questions coming in as we've been talking here. So first question, can we import directly the clinical protocol from ARIA into SeeTreat? Maybe Stephanie, that's a good one for you.
Yeah, let me take that one. Currently, at this point in time, we are not auto-importing protocols. However, it is something that we are looking into changing that ability so that we can make this much easier to do. So stay tuned for that.
Okay, next question. This is for you, Dr. Martin. How fast is it for a rad-onc to look and replan?
Well, certainly the looking is probably the hard bit because you know, it takes a little while to get familiar with you know, I guess what the trigger points are. But those videos that we showed, that was real-time filming for how long it actually takes to sort of go through the relevant parts of the software. So somewhere between 60 to 90 seconds, I guess, to mount an investigation of a sort of a red flagged fraction. So that's real time, and as you would have seen on the sort of patient list that we showed as well, a lot of the patients just come up with green lights. So you're only really having to dive into the ones that might be, you know, the trend lines are starting to sort of roll up a few oranges or get into the red zone. So I would have thought for your whole patient list at the start of the day, maybe 10 minutes to sort of knock through them all. Then, of course, you know, the replan is sort of like a separate issue. This is all about a decision aid to actually decide whether you need a replan. And then once you actually make that call, it's really, I guess, for your department's you know, usual care pathways to sort of kick into gear.
Okay, Stephanie, you did cover this, but just so we get it again here in the Q&A, and you can perhaps expand, what disease sites does ART.1 currently support?
Okay, so currently we are supporting all head and neck cases, breast and prostate. We are looking at expanding over into lung and cervix as well. Yeah, so that's where we stand right now. We know, you know, from our use cases that, you know, head and neck is one that quite a few people express a lot of interest in. There's been a lot of interest over the years in adapting those cases. And as we know, there's often treatment protocols out there that call for an automatic, you know, rescan and replanning of some of these patients throughout their treatments. So hopefully this will really help to give people objective decision making on when to do those replans instead of just doing them automatically or ad hoc.
Okay. Next question, does SeeTreat recalculate the dose or deform the original planning dose?
Okay, we are recalculating dose. That's one of the really nice things about it. We're using a collapsed cone algorithm and we're recalculating the dose. So we do have a a B modeling guide that we share with new customers and take care of that. It's quite nice. We're currently supporting 610, 6 FFF, 10 FFF, and can support 15 as well as needed.
Okay, next question, is ART.1 compatible with RayStation?
Absolutely, it is. In fact, this is one thing that we've seen quite a few demos from, is it fills that gap. We know that RayStation has some very cool tools in it. One of them is being that it can plan directly off of CBCT, but what it cannot do is automatically keep checking on your patients. It doesn't have any way to be set in the background to give you this feedback on a daily basis without someone manually bringing those patients in. So we really feel a good place there where we can do that. And then the next step is the RayStation users can use the CBCTs as needed.
Okay, great. And Stephanie, why don't we stay with you on this next one? One of the attendees is asking, when will we have our CE mark? So maybe you can cover a little about the regulatory landscape right now for ART.1.
All right, so we are waiting for our CE mark. We're waiting for our final review to happen. It should be any day now. Understand it's we just come off of summer break, and we've understood that some of the reviewers were on holiday. So that's coming. We are available for use in the UK currently, so that's quite nice. And we are very excitedly getting ready to submit to FDA. So we will be showing the software at ASTRO with the FDA pending. So hopefully we'll have some people come on over for that.
Great. We have time for a couple more questions, guys. We are trying to stick to our window here, a little bit over, but I do want to ask a couple more questions that have come in. How does the dose in ART.1 compare to the dose in the TPS?
Great question. So that's one of the reasons why we're doing a recalculation. We have the ability to take that that dose that is done on your treatment planning system, and in a fraction zero, basically we're calling it as a QA analysis, where you can then see your dose from the treatment planning system and compare it directly to the dose that ART.1 calculates for you. So this really helps the users to be comfortable with what they're seeing.
Okay, and final question, does the system use the setup registration from the LINAC, or is it registering the CBCT to the planning CT after import?
So currently it is using I believe it's using the registration from the LINAC, because that would give you the appropriate information with how the patient was treated.
Okay, all right, thank you. We are up on our time for today, and I'd like to just thank Dr. Martin and Stephanie for their presentations today, helping us to better understand ART.1's capabilities. For those of you who will be in San Francisco at ASTRO, please make sure to visit us. If you'd like to schedule a booth demo in advance, you can do so just by scanning the green QR code on your screen. Stephanie did mention that we have a number of white papers also available about ART.1. Those are all on our website. So if you'd like to find out some more information via those white papers, there's a number of things on the website that would be helpful to just learn more about the product brochure, and you can also contact us on the website for a remote walkthrough if you will not be at ASTRO. Thank you again for your attention on behalf of SeeTreat. We've appreciated your time here today, and we are looking forward to continuing the conversation about ART.1. And with that, I will close the session. Have a wonderful day. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.